Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast. We talk about all things good, the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Zach, and we got a great little episode we got putting together here. We're going to roll the dice, see what happens. Rafe is, hidden backstage, not knowing what's about to come. But as always, I'm joined by him, and he's about ready to get what's coming.
Yeah. So this is going to be interesting. This is I have no idea the topic coming into this thing, and we will see as that is revealed to me. This is the thrill of live TV, as they say, that sort of thing. Hey, thanks, listeners, for being here. We appreciate you. As usual, you can reach us at bufnagle.com. We're all over the internet. You guys know all that stuff. Hey, listen up. Listen to all the episodes. All the episodes are on the Buzzsprout Bufnagle thing, so you can download all of them for your listening pleasure. Zach, I think if somebody listened to all of them, it would take them a long time, like a week, if you could listen to straight. So remember, tell a friend to listen, and you get a free episode. Subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and we get brownies and donuts and all, God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. So Zach, all right, this is the lightning round. This is the surprise citation. So, all right, here I am. I'm ready. Go.
Ready? Okay. So today we're going to be talking about digital art, modern art, art in general. And is digital art too easy? And is it really an expression of anything? We've talked plenty on this show before about Renaissance art. If you know me, you know I am a huge fan of Raphael's The School of Athens. I'm a big fan of, Sistine Chapel, all of that old, ancient, Renaissance art that's based in human expression. It was done with, many different ways. It was done with plaster. It was done with, watercolors. It was done with oils. It was done with pastels. It was done in different forms. But as we have grown up and we've become a technology advanced civilization, we now have all these programs where you can draw a little circle and you make a circle, and then you fill that color in, and then you add a different shading here, and you click a few buttons and you're done and you've made some art. But is that actual art? And additionally, is that type of art reflected in the same way we see today, with the fact that most new skyscrapers that get built kind of suck? There's no character. And you know what? While we're at it, the art that you made digitally on your computer, it kind of sucks too. And there's no character to it because there's no hand molding of that process.
All right. Well, that is wow. Okay, so I'm gonna where do I start? Let me count the ways. All right. So okay, these are the things that are flashing through my head as you're saying this stuff. When photography first came into being, there was this idea of whoa, you took a picture, and sometimes some pictures were better than other pictures, and the art of photography has progressed from whoever that was, the guy who took all those pictures during the Civil War. Brady, was that the guy? Brady? All right, from Brady's time up into the present day, the art of photography has improved, and I think most people would consider photography an art.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%. I can take a picture of a tree. I could also take very diligent time of that picture of that tree to make it represent and show something in a way. I can do that with camera. I can do that additionally with the edit settings of being able, when I upload that and I modify that. But digital art, when I talk about photography, I'm not considering that digital art. That's its own separate thing.
Right. Okay. But this is my point. This is where I'm going with this thing. Is that when it first came into being, this idea of photography, people were like, well, all you did was take something that was out there and you pushed a button, and this machine took those little photons, and those photons stimulated those little particles of whatever it was, silver chloride or whatever it is on the photographic plate. And the chemistry did all the work. I mean, you didn't do anything. All you did was repeat what's already out there. That's this Greek concept of mimesis. All you did was copy what was there. You were just redoing what was already there. So how could that be art? Okay, that's the first thing that popped into my head. That's like thing zero. And then the second thing that popped into my head was when we go to these Lego shows and people will do something like a Lego mosaic. Well, they'll take a photograph or a painting or something, and they will redo it with little Lego pixels. And it, when you stand back, you see, oh, look at that. There's that's a mosaic that looks like you can buy. There's some sets now, Zach. You can get like, I think it's like Marilyn Monroe, or there's a picture like the Beatles. There's some things that you would recognize that you can get Lego mosaics. And there's a discussion that has bubbled up of, is that art if that's all you are doing is have you just changed the medium? Okay. And then the third thing I thought, there's four things here. The third thing I thought, I saw a picture today on my Twitter feed. And I have like the happiest Twitter feed on the planet because it's just fun stuff. It's beautiful architecture and art and happy sayings and cat posters, that sort of thing. And so there was this picture it was by a Polish artist, and it was a guy like on a ladder picking something off a tree, like it was a tree, like you would stand on a ladder and pick apples off the tree. But he wasn't picking apples off the tree. He was picking books off the tree. Okay. So it wasn't a phenomenal painting. It wasn't one of these paintings that you say, wow, is that a photograph or is that a painting? So technically it was very good, but it wasn't as good as a camera would do. But it was an interesting picture. It gets you to think about something. Do books grow on trees? Does knowledge grow on trees? Can you just pick it off? Do books come from trees? All these things came into my head as I saw that. So the art did more than just replicate a previous scene. And then the fourth thing was a thing that I have subsequently forgotten because we're doing rapid fire. But art is very powerful because it can teach, and it can drive emotion, and it can drive culture. So there's a reason Socrates in Plato's Republic, he threatened to throw all the artists out of Callipolis. He was like, we can't trust these guys because they are too powerful. So digital art is just the latest medium. And the question is, if it's just pixels on a screen, is that any different than chemical interactions on a photographic plate?
Well, yeah, but the chemical interaction with the photography that you have to do it, you have to set yourself in the right position so you get the right thing. With the digital art, you can mess up 700 little times. You can hit Control Z and you can move on to the next thing. There's lack of commitment. When you sit down, I'm going to take this wildlife photo. You have to get it right, which means you have to commit to it. But when you do the digital art and you can just kind of like change the settings and the shades and hit Control Z a bunch of times, there's not the same amount of commitment.
So
you're not in it. You're not doing the thing. Like when I draw a thing and I have a pen and I have a colored pencil, if I mess up, I mess up. Cool. Like I can move on, but like I'm committed into it. I don't get to Control Z, erase it out, white out, whatever it may be. I'm there. I'm committed. I got to be able to see this thing through.
Okay, so I got to ask the question then. All right, because your sister is an artist. All right, and we've talked about this 100,000 times. We should have had her on. I ask about, because there's two sides of the artist thing, right? One is, well, maybe three sides. There's probably a lot of sides. Okay, this is like a dodecahedron thing. Okay, so it's got however many. Is that 12 or 20? I forget. It's a thing. It's like one of those dice in Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so there is the technical aspect. Okay, there is the technical work. And I've known people who are so good technically. I knew a guy in college, and we used to have this contest of like, is this a photograph or is it a drawing? And you had to like zoom way in with a magnifying glass to see that it was a drawing. And technically, he was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And there are a lot of very good technical artists out there. But there's another side, at least another side of that, and that's, what are you saying? What are you saying something, or are you saying a thing, or are you just vomiting back out what was out there before? What are you doing? So, and I don't know I've seen a lot of this video game art, which I think some of is phenomenal. You look at the movie. What's the movie? What's all signed? Avatar. It's all sorts of beautiful stuff. Those flying blue people and the big trees and all of that is supposed to be very exciting CGI kinds of stuff. But if the story sucks, then the great thing about the School of Athens, okay, going back to that, the great thing about the School of Athens, first of all, step zero, it's got to be technically good. But the second thing is you can go in there and you can identify, okay, this guy is Alexander the Great. And this guy is Eratosthenes or whoever it is. Or this guy has this guy's head on this guy's body because it represents such and such. All right, it's the story that's being told. And I think the art is more than just the technical thing. It has to have a relevant story to tell. There's this lady I know, and she's a phenomenal artist. But she always paints paths through the woods. That she does that like trees, and there's a path that kind of wanders off, or here's like a waterfall and a thing, and it's always path oriented. And I started talking to her about, well, why is the path always there? What's the path? And that's part of her story, is this idea of what the path is, where you're going. You can kind of see it. You can't see everything. I mean, there's a bigger story about it. And just like great literature, Zach, like you should learn in middle school and high school, a great story tells at least two stories at the same time. It tells you the story that's on the page, and then it tells you the second story that when you read between the lines or you look behind that, you see the allegory or you see the metaphor for something else. There's more there than what is there, and the good art, the real art, I would venture, has that second piece.
Yes, and you can still achieve that second piece through any medium. But my personal opinion is the medium dilutes the ability, dilutes the creativity, the expression. It makes it lesser because I can just, you know what, I could spend 200 hours control Zing to get to the perfect thing that gives the thing to allow me, but I wasn't actually in it. I wasn't committed. I just had Control Z on my side. It's the same thing. Like, if you give a monkey a typewriter, eventually they're going to write Shakespeare. It's just like if we give a monkey a digital canvas and way to paint digitally, eventually they're going to make the Mona Lisa. So is that expression, is that worth it when we want to talk about great art? And there is great art. There is great photographers. There are great pastel paintings. There are great expressionists. There's great abstractionists. There's great astronautist people. There we go. Got to the made up one. Now we can go.
Okay, so you talk. Okay, so that's a great point, because I'd never heard somebody do that with the monkeys and the typewriters. Okay, for years we've been doing the monkey and the typewriter thing. I mean, I remember that from when I was a little kid. Bob Newhart had you know who Bob Newhart is. He was a stand-up comedian before he was even on TV, and he did an episode. He said if they ever did this monkeys and typewriters things, they'd have to hire a guy to see if they turned out anything good. Okay. They would have to do that, and his little shtick said, "Well, I would like to present a day in the life of that guy, of the guy who watches the monkeys to see if they're turning out anything good." And he goes, and he kind of gives some examples, and he gets to this last guy, and he says, "Oh, I think this is famous or something," and you hear him, doing papers. I think this is famous or something. To be or not to be, that is the Gazornenplatz. Man, that was his joke. And what's funny is that was a Shakespeare joke, right? So he agreed, if you gave a monkey Photoshop, an infinite number of monkeys and an infinite number of Photoshops, would they draw the Mona Lisa?
Well, when you say Photoshop, it's digital canvas creating tools. Like it's a different thing. Like, yeah, it takes skill to use it on a certain level, but it also, like, the entry point is so abysmally low that you don't really have to commit to anything, because you can hit just Control Z on everything, and then you don't have to worry. It's like, I got nothing. You get to be able to disassociate so easily. It feels like you're not committed into doing the thing.
So the fact that you can't go back. Okay, so that's the thing. Of like when you carve the statue of David, if you take out too much marble, you lose David, right?
Is that you have to reshape how you create David.
Well, like it's kind of like woodworking. Once you make
Yeah.
that cut, that wood does not come back. I mean, you
Or
can
it's
do
like
it
cooking.
or cooking. All right. So you're saying unless you have something, you're saying it's not good art if there's no risk.
I think so. I
Well,
think like if I can just it's the same reason I really think like if you want to be a great writer, don't type on your computer, write with a pen and paper. Be embedded into that thing. Yeah, maybe you get an eraser and you can erase stuff, but you have to be embedded in commitment to that. Not, oh, I can camp up here at my keyboard and be a monkey and write Shakespeare. Like, no, be better than that.
well, I will challenge, and I think you're right on part of that. Is if you get, and I'm going to do this one of these days. Maybe I'll do this when I retire. Is I'm going to get an actual typewriter again, tick 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 with not the selectric one with the ball that swings back and forth, but one that's actually you have to really bang on the keys. I'm going to get one of those, and I think what will happen is if I don't have the ability to go back very easily, I will think differently about how I compose. And I think that's interesting here. While we are recording this, we almost always do this in one take. This, and that's part of the challenge that we do. We want to be very careful that but so there's risk here. Like actually, this episode has a little bit at the beginning because we were checking some volume level. So that's in all transparency. There's a thing at the beginning with volume levels, but you won't hear it because we took it out. But the rest of this thing has all been. This is it. Zach is committing to fully to say. So when he said take your pen and paper, he said pen and paper, but he tripped on that and he was like, all right, whatever. That's what happens. There's a great. Van Gogh painting, an oil painting of his that he did out in the countryside. And they found a grasshopper in the paint. They have found a grasshopper in the paint. Like he was out there painting over here, and it takes forever for it to dry. And he was out there, and the grasshopper just kind of got stuck in there. And he was like, okay, and he just kind of painted over him, and you can see the grasshopper in the paint. And so I guess that's the commitment thing. So okay, so is that a necessary? That's certainly not sufficient that you have to be committed because you can still make bad art even if you're committed.
Yeah, I do that on a Tuesday. Like that's not cool, whatever. But I think it makes you force yourself to be like, what is my vision here? What am I about? Or am I just copy and pasting something someone's already done? I think one of the best places this is shown actually is animation. Is if you look at Disney, the history of animation is Disney kind of reinvented the animation game with Toy Story. They kind of changed how it was done, and a lot of people emulated that. They adopted that style. But lately, people have been saying, no, let's do something else. Let's push the boundaries of what we can do with animation and how we can create visual scenes and pictures instead of focusing on the Disney point of view, which is on that hyper-realistic, almost like everyone feels like a human, but we know it's a cartoon. No, let's make it like, what if it's like, it is a cartoon? What if it's like off of the pages of a comic book? That's what Into the Spider-Verse did, and it completely changed what animation was for Sony. And then Sony's been able to ride that wave of success into one of the most popular movies of all time, and is probably the best Spider-Man movie of all time. That's a different rant that we don't need to go into.
Well, okay, but is that great art?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay. So, but okay. So here's the thing. So I see this like NFL Madden kind of video game thing. Okay, so that's not even. I would venture to say that's not even as technically artsy as the art you're talking about, where you actually take something, you take a stylus of some type and you touch the screen, because that's not programmed. That's not even drawn. That's like they say, well, a guy, like, here are the parameters for a person, right? Shoulder width, elbow bend, number of fingers, head size, number of legs, that kind of thing, and amount of hair on their head, right? So that's a thing. That's a person. It's like those what is it on your phone? You can do those little people that look like you, and
Emojis?
Bitmojis? Is that the Bitmojis? Is that what it is? Well, I have a little guy that looks like me, and I can put him in different positions. There's like 500 different positions he can be in, right? And he looks like me. But to get that, nobody actually drew that guy. Nobody drew that guy that looks like me. There's you can pick from 10 different head sizes. You can pick from 3 different body types. And by the time you do that, you get like as many different combinations as there are people on the planet, and you're like, that kind of looks like me. So that's not even drawn. And I wonder, like in the Madden game, those football little guys running around, tackling and jumping up and high fiving and drinking water, 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 water. Whatever that is, they are. That's not even. That's not. Is that even art then? If all you've done is write up an algorithm that draws it. So you're saying no, that's not even that.
It's something, but I don't consider it art with a capital A. It might be art with a lowercase a, but it's not art with a capital A.
I'll give you that. Okay.
It's like
All right.
literature. I can write literature with a lowercase L, but not literature with a capital L.
Well, not yet. You can't.
No, I'm working on it.
But we all know there's these AI. I'm using finger quotes. AI algorithms that now draw art. You say, "Show me a beautiful building."
Yeah.
You say, "Show me wildflowers," and they go out to the interwebs. They find these pictures. They kind of measure them in some sort of multidimensional space, and then randomize
regression off of it, and then
that's what they do. Yeah, and they everything. This must be a beautiful building, and so. If you just write an algorithm, is the thing that comes out of the algorithm art? You say no. So. Okay, so but what if you have?
No, it's art. It's not uppercase A.
It's art. Lowercase art. Okay, so the question is whether it's uppercase art or lowercase art, and it has to do with how much commitment you have into the construction.
Being committing to an idea and like following it through and understanding that there is going to be parts of it, this sucked, but maybe some part of it was really good, so you reutilize that in the next piece and you just get better. I think the thing that comes with art, comes with writing, comes with speaking, comes with doing whatever, it's if you're able to practice it and get better and be able to hone it and hone in on this is a thing I do well. This is my style of art. This is my style of writing, and make that and embrace that. And once you do that, rather than trying to be somebody else, you are going to make something great. And great is not, in this situation, is subjective, because it's about, I made this great thing because I showed the hard work, the determination to get here. Not everyone needs to appreciate it, and not everyone should appreciate it. But the greatness comes from the fact that you were able to put in the work and make it into something bigger than the sum of its parts.
But what it comes from you. Okay, so you are telling your story through that manifestation. So you are not just your physical body. You are what we see here. I see on the screen. I see electronic representation of what's bouncing around in the camera in your house there. But even you, if I were in the same room, the you of you you are more than just the physical manifestation of you. You are more than that. And a piece of that can be what you describe, what flows from you in that art, whether it's literature, whether it's music, whether it's a woodworking, whether it's a Lego sculpture. It doesn't matter what that is. What they say that art, that you express yourself through art. I've heard that said. Oh, I use art to express myself, and I think that's hogwash. I don't think that's what happens at all. I think who you are comes out in your art. I mean, the things I know, the things that I do, whether I'm building with Lego, whether I'm drawing little pictures in my notebook, whether I'm working in the workshop, or whether I'm mowing the yard, all of that, all pieces of me come out there, right? And I can see how those things are, I can see how they're related and how they're part of my story. And like you said, once you get talented enough, and it doesn't require a whole lot, but you got to have some talent. You can't just, you can't not have a talent. But whether the talent is for working with wood or mowing the lawn or drawing with your colored pencils, once you build the techniques, then you can tell your story, and that becomes a manifestation of you. And it is, and I guess then when it reflects the truth of who you are, then it becomes art. I'll give it a capital A.
Yeah, and it's more than just, I was able to sit down and puke out a bunch of words on a piece of paper and look, now I wrote Shakespeare. That's not art. But being able to sit down and have a real original idea that is creative and an expression of your soul and parts of your being and your story and what you've been through, that is art. Not everyone has to like it, and quite frankly, who cares if everyone likes it? It's an expression of you. You better like it.
So it's necessary, though. I think it's necessary that there is that there is a certain level of technical skill. You've got to have the technical
Yeah,
skill.
but that technical skill isn't technical skill that's like if you go, oh, this is how you learn how to be a great writer. No, you learn how to be a great writer by writing a lot.
Well,
You also have to like, use proper sentence structure, things like that. But you have to write, and it's like what's comfortable for you as a writer that's able to express that, not trying to copy what somebody else is.
right. Well, it starts like that when you're a kid, right? You always start with the mimesis, with the copying, with the I do what you did, and that's how you learn. That's how you learn the starting point. But once you get that, then once you have all those tools in place, and you've seen the way different people have done certain things, then you can expand on that, and you can build. You can create something like you said is greater than the sum of the parts. The mathematician would think of it as a linear combination of the elements, which is a regression, right? So
Which is
you
a
are
sum of the parts thing.
right. So but you're still putting together the pieces you have in the construct that reflects you. All right. And when you put them together, they will reflect you. That's how I think about it. And so if all you're doing is you're taking use my new animator function here in whatever program you're using. And this
Adobe.
I bought Adobe Animator, and I click on the person, and I give him a hat, and then I click on M for mustache, and now I've drawn a guy. Well, I'm not sure that's now if you can get it to do some things that haven't been done before. All right, I'll give you that. Then you've moved outside of the box. But there has to be some copiness, and there has to be some originality. But more than anything, it has to reflect a component of you. That's what I
Yeah, I
think.
think that's like a perfect way to describe it. But like modern art today, like I think we get so caught up in the fact that like we can do all of this that we forget the fact that like just because we can do all of this doesn't mean we should. We should really be expressing that inner part that lets us shine. Anybody can write a book, but can you write a book that's an expression, or can you just like regurgitate the Harry Potter story, the Star Wars story, and some other story that's been told 500 times? Or can you create a new world, a new way to think about, let's say, time travel, alternate realities, dimensions, things like that? You can talk about that, and then maybe you tell a similar story we've heard before. But I'm not interested in the story. I'm interested in the world you created. That world building through writing is art. Things like that. Be expressive. Be creative. Break the boundaries, and don't be afraid to like have something invested in and understand like it might not work out.
You know, you talked about building a world. There was has been a lot of talk about the metaverse, okay, and the different metaverses. Okay, maybe there's more than one metaverse. Why is there only one metaverse? So there are all these, but the company Facebook, which became Meta, has told us that we will now all live there, um, and they talk about how great it will be because it will be very realistic. And I'm thinking, and everybody said this. There's a perfect metaverse right outside your window. Like I open these blinds here, and there is a metaverse that cannot be even close to replicated on the computer screen or through those. Zach, if you ever see me wearing the IR goggles,
I've
just
seen you do them.
like if you ever see me do that, commit me right then and right there. I have no desire to do that. I can't imagine why I would want to do that. There is like I just come with me. We'll take a walk in the park, and it will be a sensory experience beyond measure. I, just phenomenal stuff. So if you want the real metaverse, go see the real metaverse. Make something that expresses you, but do it with good skill, and
Yeah,
uh, and then you'll have art.
creative. Don't copy what's already been done. Yeah, it's important. Like when you learn how to draw, when you learn how to do anything, yeah, you have to start with the basics somehow. But be unafraid, unapologetic. Be like, you know what? This is my style. This is what makes me unique, and I don't care if you like it or not. I like it, and it's an expression of me, and that's seeking the good. So I want to go remind you all to go seek the good, be the good, and spread the good. Enjoy the adventure of life.